This is screen 2, this is screen 1.
And that I'm saying.
Okay, so what we're doing today is we're comparing and ordering rational numbers. Now we've already compared and ordered integers, right? That should be, we should feel pretty confident about that. We did pretty well on our quiz with that. Now what's the difference between an integer and a rational number?
An integer does not contain like decimals or fractions, and rational numbers do.
Awesome. So she said integers do not contain decimals or fractions, but rational numbers do. So we're going to, it's the same concept as ordering integers, but basically the numbers are a little bit more difficult. They're not as nice and pretty, okay? And so because of that, it takes a little bit more time. Sometimes they're easier, but sometimes they're not. So just a quick review, a rational number is any number that can be written, and we've been saying as a fraction, but I want to say as a ratio, and then in parentheses write fraction. And a ratio is just a comparison of two numbers. So a fraction, if we have 1/2, it's 1 compared to 2, or 1 cut into. They're the same thing. But you should understand the term ratio. Okay, and then if we look at our number line here, from 0, if I go further left away from 0, the smaller it gets, right? And that's why the negatives are so tricky, because the larger the negative number, the further to the left it is from 0, therefore the smaller it is, right? So they play mind games with you. And then to the right of 0, the larger the number gets. That was easier for us, right? So if we look here, before today, we learned how to compare and order integers. Same thing, just the numbers are a little bit more tricky. Now, these helpful hints are things that just through doing them, I think is beneficial. Each problem, you kind of have to look at their own way, because sometimes you're like, oh, well, I could just do this. Or, oh, this way would actually work better. You kind of take a problem by problem and think through them and solve. But if we get confused, you can always just jot down a quick number line, right, and place them. You guys are really good at that, placing them on the number line. You guys tend to do well with that, and then knowing further to the left is smaller, further to the right is larger. Now, if we're dealing with fractions, what might be a helpful way, or what might be helpful for you to consider doing? I'm going to give an example, and then I want you guys to kind of help me. So my example, let's just say that we're going to be comparing 2/3 and 5/8. Because sometimes let's say we're comparing 1/2 and 1/4. Clearly, which one's bigger? 1/2, right? You guys can see those pretty clearly. But this, you're like, okay, 2/3, that's a little bit more than half, right? 5/8 is a little bit more than half. But like, they're pretty close, right? So we can't just compare them this way. What could we do? Ethan?
I don't know how to exactly see it, but like you could like find their closest
What number they both can go into? What?
16.
Can you go 16?
No, 24.
24. So what Ethan just said is you could find the number that they could closest go into, and he was referencing the denominators. So what that really is called is finding a common denominator, right? So we need to find a common denominator. So he said 24. So if I have 2/3, 3 times what gets me to 24? 3 times 8. So I need to do the 2 times 8. So 3 times 8 would be 24. 2 times 8 is going to be 16. So 2/3 is equivalent to 16/24. We agree? Yes. Okay, cool. Now let's do the same thing for 5/8. 8 times 3 gets me to 24. So then 5 times 3 gets me to what? 15. So now I have 15/24. Now that we have that common denominator, what I think about is I love pizza, so I always reference it to pizza. I have one pizza originally cut into thirds and another pizza originally cut into eighths. Okay, let's say Luke ate 2 out of the 3 slices of his pizza. I ate 5 out of the 8 slices of my pizza, and we're trying to decide who ate the most pizza. Okay, the best way to be able to compare them is to cut the pizzas into the same amount of slices, right? So that's finding the common denominator. We would cut it into 24 slices, and if the pizzas were 24 slices, Luke ate 16 pieces, and I ate 15 pieces. So who ate more? Luke. So we would say that 2/3 is greater than 5/8. Do you see how that helped to compare them? Now, is there another way I could have compared them? What?
You could raise the common denominator.
I could have, but is there something, another, Maria Rose? It's not it. Jose? Sorry. Where'd I get Rose? We could change it to a decimal. Awesome. A lot of times I want you guys, especially with the numbers that you guys were given in 6th grade, a lot of times we give you guys numbers, let's stop. Okay, we give you guys numbers that have a common denominator, easy to find. But sometimes that's not the case. And sometimes it is easier to convert to decimals. But a lot of times, whenever it's just comparing fractions like this, converting to the decimal takes more time. So I just want to put like star, backup plan, convert to decimals. Okay, so the other thing that's helpful is if we're comparing both decimals and fractions, it says what might be something that you can do to make things easier. So instead of them being like both fractions, if we have like a decimal and a fraction, in order to compare them, what do they need to be, right?
You can either change the decimal to fraction or fraction.
Awesome. Okay, so basically we need to get them in the same form, right? So we need to get our values into the same form. And again, for each question, it depends on which form's easier. A lot of times it's a decimal, but sometimes it is a fraction. So taking the time to stop and kind of think about it right before would be helpful. Okay. And then lastly, number 4, this one's really important. Your answer must be written in its original form. So staying really neat and organized helps you not be confused on which number went with which number and all of those things. So I'm going to try to show you guys how I do it to help me not get confused. It does take a lot of space and it does take time, but you don't make silly errors. All right, let's do this first example. So it says to put the following sets of numbers in order from least to greatest. I'm trying to make my pen smaller. Because I write so big, I always like to rewrite the numbers in my own handwriting and then like line it up from there. So I rewrite them. I'm going to do 3.18, negative 3 1/4, negative 3.3, 3 4/5, negative 3 1/5. And then I see that it said from least to greatest, so I always write L to G. So which numbers am I going to be dealing with first? What type of numbers?
Negatives.
The negatives. Okay, so I always circle them. Whatever numbers I'm dealing with first, I circle. And now I totally zone out on the positives, and I just focus on putting the negatives in order. It just helps your eyes visually knock those out and just focus, right? Now what do you think I need to do? Bless you. Yes.
Change the negative 3 and 3 tenths to a fraction so that you can compare it easily.
Okay, I could change it to a fraction to compare, and then I have to find common denominators for this one, common denominator for this one, common denominator for this one, which would work. Or I could convert both of these to decimals. And I think that 3 1/4, especially for AP, I think 3 1/4 and 3 1/5, those should be really easy conversions for you. The 3 1/4, you are right, like that will work. Okay? I don't want you to think I'm telling you don't do that. But 3 1/4, what is 1/4 as a decimal?
45.
Right, you have 1 out of the 4 quarters that you need. This should be one that you don't even have to do the math for. You just go, so I circle it and I draw an arrow, and then I do negative 3.25, and then I circle this value so that I know these two are connected. Now, how can I get the 1/5 really easily to a decimal? Kate? I could, well, by 4 would get me to 20. Is 20 a power of 10? If I multiplied by 20, then I would get to 100. I could even do 2. 20 works, but let's just do 2 because it goes to 10. So I would do times 2, and we'll get 2/10, right? Does everybody agree? So this is going to be -3 and 2/10. So this just would do. And see how I have my arrows, and they're directly, you should be writing this down, Luke. They're directly below them. Now, whenever I'm comparing decimals, I think it helps to line everything up vertically. So I have all my negatives as decimals, and then I go over to the side and I do, okay, -3.3, -3.25, and -3.2. And this is where you have to be super careful, because they're negatives. So the larger the negative number, the smaller it actually is, right? And also, people keep thinking that because this 2 is in the tens place, and then this goes over to the hundreds, that this is more, okay? If you add a 0, 3/10 is the same thing as 30 hundredths, right? So I think it helps to add a 0 to these, so then now you're like, okay, well, it's 30 hundredths, 25 hundredths, and 20 hundredths. This is a negative. Which one is the most negative? Just say it. The -3.3, right? So then I'm going to cross this out from here, and then I find my -3.3 in here. That's its original form. Then I cross it out here, and I start writing that -3.3 in my answer. Now, what's my next smallest number? You can just say it. The -3 and 25 hundredths. So then I'm going to cross it out here. I find it up here, and its original form is the -3 and 1/4. You see how that helps me stay organized? Yeah? So then we have the -3 and 1/4. And then I only have one other negative number left, so clearly that has to be the next smallest number, right? Or next largest. So I'm going to cross out up here. I see its original form is -3 and 1/5. So we have -3 and 1/5. So now I'm totally done with my negatives. Let me cross that off. And now I can focus on my positives. The 3 and 4/5, that should be another easy conversion, right? If I have 4/5 and I try to get to a power of 10, that's going to be 8/10, right? So that's going to be 3.8. Am I going too fast? No? Okay. Yes.
Wouldn't it just be easier to just convert the decimal to a fraction?
Well, if you did, and then you could simplify it, and it would be, well, it would be, you could make it into, it'd be 9/50 and then 40/50. You can do it that way, but just having to convert a decimal to a fraction, then you have to find common denominators for the fractions, where if you convert two decimals, like one step, and then you just compare them. You know what I'm saying? So here, if we have 3.18 and 3.8, I add the 0 for place value. Which one is the next? 3.8 is going to be the largest, so that would go last. So 3.18 would be our next. And then the 3.8, which it's originally 3 and 4/5. And that was just one problem. Do you see how it's easy to make mistakes though? And especially like if you forget that a number has a negative, then you're gone, right? So it's easiest to separate your negatives and your positives, focus on just one of them, whichever one you're using first, and then go from there, okay? Example number 2. We're going from greatest to least, right? G to L. I want to work this one with you guys. It goes pretty quick, and then I'm going to let you guys do this one on your own, and then I'll come back and check. So it's greatest to least. So which numbers am I going to be dealing with first? The positives. I'm going to rewrite them. 43.18, negative 43 and 1/3, negative 43.33, negative 43 and 4/5. So I'm going to circle my positives. That's a positive 43 and 4/5. I'm going to circle my positives because I'm dealing with them first. And I think that 4/5 is pretty easy to convert to a decimal. Do we agree? Yeah? Okay. So I'm going to do times 2, and we'll get 8/10. So I know this is going to be 43.8. Now, I also like to line up my decimals vertically. So we have 43.8. Which one is larger? The 43.8. You can add the 0 if that helps you, because 80 hundredths is greater than 18 hundredths. So 43.8 is greater. So I'm going to cross it out. My largest value is going to be the 43 and 4/5. And it's awesome. We only have one other positive number, so I know this has to be the next largest, right? Cross it out. We have 43.18. Now I'm dealing with my negatives. What can I do? Convert to a decimal? Yeah? So if I can't, I know that I have 1/3 memorized, but I do math every day, every class period, all the time. Okay? That's one that I would go over to the side and work out, right? So if I'm going to be comparing these, I know it's going to be negative 43 point something, but let's do the 1 divided by 3. 3 can't go into 1, right? That is 0. Can 3 go into 10?
Yes.
3. What's happening?
Etc.
It's going to go on and on and on. So we would write that with the bar notation, but whenever we're comparing and ordering them, I kind of don't want you guys to do that just for the sake of being able to compare them. Okay? So yes, this is negative 43.3 with the bar notation. But if I'm going to be lining these up to compare them, let's do the negative 43.33. Then this one is negative 43.3333 ... Right? And the reason I like to line them up vertically like this is because then you just look down the place value. So they're the same here, right? They're the same here. They're the same here. They're the same here. What would go after this 3 up here? A 0. So this is where they're different. 0 is less than 3, but what type of numbers are these?
Negatives.
Negatives. So the more negative number is what number?
Smaller.
It's smaller, but the larger one. The 3. So the negative 43.3 or the negative 43 1/3 is smaller. So I just crossed it out, but I should have crossed out this one. So the next largest value would be this one, the negative 43 and 33 hundredths. And then it's our negative 43 and 1/3. It's a lot. There's a lot of places to make silly mistakes in it. Right? Now, example 3, I want you guys to do on your own, but I want to convert this one to a decimal with you guys. The easy way is that you realize that it's out of 100, right? So it's out of 100, and we're just talking place value wise. Like this is the ones place, decimal point. This is the tens place, right? This is the tens hundredths. If it's 7 out of 100, that means this is the hundredths place. The last digit at the top has to go in the hundredths place. So the 7 would go here. So this would be 13.07. Now, a lot of my students aren't doing it straight that way. So I want to show you the division wise because everyone does the work right. You just skip this one little step. So I want everybody to watch how I divide this. We're going to do 7 divided by 100, right? Can 100 go into 7? No, you guys do great here. I had a decimal point and a 0. This is right. I still do this. Oh, you're saying no, it doesn't go in. I get it. I have to bring my decimal point up. Now, can 100 go into 70? No. No, so I put an X still. And I add a 0. Hold on. Now can 100 go into 700?
Yes.
Yes, 7 times. 7 times 100 is 700. We get 0 left over. My x's always represent 0, but it just helps me because I feel like people get confused with where we put zeros and all this stuff. So I put x, and I know that this x now is going to be a 0, and I have to tack this back on over here. So in other words, people keep forgetting this 0 right here. But you do everything else the same, you just are shifting the 7 over. That would be 7/10 or 70/100s, not 700s. Okay? Now I'm going to let you guys work on this with your table.